Hey YouTube, it's JP Dillon. Today we're going to refoam a set of JBL L-40s. This uses a 10-inch driver, which as you can see here has seen better days. We're also going to pull out this dent, or attempt to pull out this dent on the titanium dome tweeter here. There's another enclosure, but we'll start with one and work with the other, and then see how they turn out. So the first thing to do is to get the woofer out, or perhaps maybe we'll try to pull out the dent on this thing. The first thing I will typically try is some moderately sticky duct tape. If that doesn't work, then a vacuum cleaner with a very small and controlled hose attachment will sometimes work. But at the moment I'm hoping for the tape because it's less likely to destroy the diaphragm if something goes wrong. So I'm literally just going to take a square of this and very carefully push it into the dent. My fingernail is using as little pressure as possible. We're just going to let the adhesive do its job. And then we're very carefully going to pull. And see, it takes the paint off. It is starting to come out though. There we go. So I will have to paint that indentation in a little bit. See if we can get this tiny little dent out. And there we go. So Sharpie, little tiny bit of black paint, and we'll cover that up. And there it is, all painted back in. We can see there's still a little tiny dent here that I wasn't able to pull out, but it's better than a big dent. So it's an improvement overall. So now let's take the woofer out and get to refoaming it. And when you're doing this, it's always best to have the speaker on its back. That way you're not fighting gravity and the off chance that the speaker will pop out of the enclosure, ripping one of the screws out of the cabinet, and then ripping the wires out of the crossover because you couldn't catch the woofer in time. Yes, it does happen. I've seen many customers bring their sets in where they've done it that way. So just put the thing on its back, take the screws out, very carefully lift it up and out of the cabinet. With JBLs, it's usually push-ons when they're this vintage, and slightly older, it's just push terminals with bare wires. So let's get it out. When removing the screws, always make sure you got a screwdriver with a decent bit on it, that you don't have to push down to get the screwdriver to bite. Because if you push down, you will very likely push in the hardware that's meant to hold the machine screw in, which is on the opposite side of this, and then it will be hell to get this thing out. So apply minimal downward force as possible when removing the screws. Get a decent number 2 screwdriver that just bites, and they should just come right out with ease. If they're stuck, trickle some penetrating oil down in there. Like I'll see speakers come from the near the water here, near the beach, and they'll be kind of rusty crusty. So just make sure that they come out nice and easy. You can see somebody here has stripped the threads on that one. Not sure why. Maybe it was the last person that refoamed it. Up, see? See, this one wants to fall down into the cabinet. So we have to deal with that mess. Well, I guess this is going to cause a second part of the video, because in order to get this out, now that's even more fun. I thought there was going to be an opening here. We have to get the bit in here that's holding the screw right now to stand still so that we can get this out. And some of the reason why is because some nincompoop cross-threaded it and drove it down probably with a drill or something. So that's fun. So when this happens, if you can't get it to the side, you have to literally lift up on it, get a hand underneath there, and thankfully I've got enough leeway where I can do this, and see if there's a way that you can hold the piece of hardware still while you back the screw out. And I'm going to trickle down some penetrating lube too and see if that will help. But we got to get that out of there, obviously. I'm not going to beat up the cabinet. And you can see with this one, the terminals are idiot proof and they just pop off. So make sure you do that. One thing you can try doing is putting something underneath where you're going to pry so you don't mar the cabinet. And as you pry up, while you're taking the screw out, sometimes that will bust it loose. So we'll try that first. And yeah, it did come out, but unfortunately this is badly damaged. So we're going to have to rotate this woofer about 90 degrees and then reseat it with new hardware, because there ain't nothing for the bit to stick in. And you can see here exactly what the problem is that somebody cross-threaded this guy and just wrenched on it till it went in. So I'm going to have to cut that off. Either that or hope that I can get some vice grips around it and get it get it turning enough so I can get it out. Yeah, not good. So I was able, using some vice grips, to hold on to it tight enough to back the screw out, but both pieces are ruined and the cabinet's ruined. So we got to patch that up somehow and then rotate the speaker until we can get new hardware in it. So yeah, when you go to insert these screws, do it finger tight. I'm guessing somebody here cross-threaded it and just ran it down with a drill, and that wasn't very smart. But, you know, people do stupid things. Well, these speakers are just becoming more and more of a nightmare. This one, the terminal block is loose, and I don't want that to cause an issue, so we're going to have to JB weld this guy back down because there's just nubbins sticking up in its phenolic. So I'm not going to drill a basket out or anything. We're just going to JB weld it down and then go from there. So I'm just going to use the 5-minute stuff. It doesn't have to have incredible strength or anything, so we're going to mix it together. I'm going to need 2 hands for this, and then we'll make an application underneath and let it sit. Alright, there it is with the application. Let me wipe off the excess, clean it up a little bit, and make it look a little more acceptable. Alright, so that's all cleaned up and cured. So let's move on to what we were originally doing. Now, before we start doing anything heavy, the first thing I want to do is see if the voice coil's okay. So we're going to get an ohm meter and hang it across the voice coil. And DCR of impedance is usually about 67 to 70%, so we should be seeing around 5.8 to 6 ohms here if this is alright. If I can get a good connection. Yeah, 5.05, well, it's there. Alright, so then the next thing I'll do is I'll try and center the cone, and I'll make sure I get no rubbing going in. Should have a sweet spot, and likewise coming out. You'll need 2 hands for that to support it. You should have a sweet spot, no hanging, no rubbing. If you're good with that, then you can proceed. Now, someone's refoamed these previously because as far as I know, the 127A only attached the foam on the cone from the rear side. And if we flip this over, we see evidence of original surround there. So I'd like to do it right, and I'd like to show you how to do it right. So we're going to try to remove all this gunk from the front of the cone and reattach it like it should. Now my camera mount is about done, and it's just kind of wired together like a heroin addict, so we're going to have to fit this in the frame. So I'm taking my nice sharp X-Acto, I'm going to slip it under the beauty ring here and just slowly work it around, angling downward so you don't cut the beauty ring. And we're just going to walk it around. If it hangs up, give it a little saw motion to keep going. Don't force it. Don't get impatient. Last thing you want to do is cut your finger or damage this or damage the cone, and then you got to recone it, which gets expensive real fast. So once you walk around a piece, you see that it starts to peel up, but you ain't done yet because you have to walk around the edge. This is where ambidextrous is useful. So I'm going to walk my knife around the edge here to break that loose, and then just very gently keep pulling up. You see that it's starting to peel here, and you can come back around a second time and walk it through a second time if anything's hanging up. The key here is patience. Don't try to rush this. If you try to rush this, you're just going to end up with heartache. So there's one piece. There's 3 more we got to do. So let me walk this one around. Again, just going nice and slow. Doing this in real time so y'all can see it. Make sure I'm not losing my blade here. And sometimes you'll get lucky and there won't be a lot of glue around the edge. Personally, I've never put glue around the edge, but some people just want it to be absolutely no possibility of peeling up. This one needs a little more help around the edge. All right, there's number 2. Just gotta take your time. Up. See, and I hit a snag. Now, it's a good thing I stopped. I almost tore it completely away. We can patch that up, though. That's what happens when you go a little too fast. And see, rather than doing the saw motion that got past that point, I decided to push past it, and that's what happened. But it's not a complete tear through, so we can probably patch it up and make it look nice. So let's go back to what I was saying earlier and walk it and go nice and slow. Alright, and then the last one here. This one's got all the glue. This one's going to be tricky because my knife keeps wanting to hang up in here. I can see it binding already. Just keep walking it. And you notice how I use my thumbs to push the blade, because you get a lot more control that way, holding onto the basket and pushing the blade with your thumbs, than you would just trying to walk it around with one hand. Like I said, the last thing you want is to slip and either injure yourself or injure this cone. Now, if you ever watched Speaker Freak 95 do these, he makes it look so damn easy. I suggest you go look at his channel. He's a professional broadcast guy that loves to tinker with old stuff like this, and he's got real skills. Okay, we got all that free. Now, what I use is a chisel, just like that, and I'm going to go around and just scrape away the remainder of the stuff here. And it's going to get shaky because my bench is going to start shaking. But you just want a clean surface that you can stick the new foam to. And don't be afraid of the glue staining the basket. That's just how it happens. It's just going to stain the basket. The foam's going to cover that up anyways, and so will the beauty rings. And I'm just walking around, providing a clean area. And if you need to periodically sharpen your chisel, a whetstone's good for that. I got one kicking around here somewhere, but I sharpened this a couple days ago when I did my last set of speakers. This is still working pretty well. There's a little indent here I'm trying to run over without catching and slipping. Now people will say you can use solvents and soak this and get all this stuff off hella easier. And yeah, you probably can. But I also don't want to risk getting any of that solvent on the cone because it'll just obliterate it. Unless you're reconing the thing, you want to keep this intact as much as possible. You don't want to damage it. And just short strokes with the chisel. Don't try to go fast, because all you got to do is slip and you're just going to kill this thing. We've only gone about halfway around the basket too. But you just want to give it a go until there's nothing left. There's nothing that could hang up or anything. That one's going to need a little help. Let's see if I can work this one away a little bit. This was that side that had all that goop on it for the beauty rings. Yeah, this one's really thick. Really thick. Just got to be patient. I'm going to try to do the edge here and take away a lot of the anchor that the glue has. Probably only going to have enough room on the camera to do one refoam on camera. I'll do the other one off camera, and then we'll sweep test them and make sure that they're happy. This is where I'd want to get some training from somewhere like Springfield Speaker Repair or something like that, or Simply Speakers, to see how they do it so damn quick. Yeah, I see the camera keeps shifting here. And then I got my lamp in the way. Yeah, this mount is about done. All the bushings in it are worn. It's got lots of slop. It likes to move around on its own. I'm waiting for a new one to get here. Right. Well, we got all the heavy chunks off, so now I'm just going to walk it around and catch all the stuff I missed. Then we'll work on getting the cone cleaned up. Almost there. Just need a nice, fresh, smooth contact area to work with. Alright. That's pretty smooth. Let's work on the cone now. Alright, so now let's focus on getting the cone done. And if the camera randomly flips out, I'm sorry, but may have to catch it mid-shoot. Alright, let me turn on some light here and see if we can get a better view. So here's the back side lip that they should have attached to originally. So I'm just going to angle the knife and just go along the edge here. And just clean all this garbage away. Again, you just want a nice clean surface to work with. Rotate it and do it again. This particular model of JBL is supposed to attach from the underside of the cone, and the guy who did the refoam job last was kind of lazy about it and did it from the top side, which means there's going to be marks when I remove the old top side stuff. The reason why engineers come up with certain points of attachment is because the physics of the speaker mean that it can either travel farther, less restricted, less distortion, less pulling and breakage possibility of the foam. So I'm going to pull the cone down a little bit and keep my thumb there, and then I'm going to run my finger along here to get rid of all the old foam dust that I kicked loose. Now we got to do the top side. And I'm just going to go at it with the X-Acto, and we're just very slowly going to clear the top of the cone of the old foam here. And you want to keep the knife blade as close to the edge as possible because it will leave scarring marks. So I'm trying to narrow it down to right where the foam used to be. Thankfully so far there wasn't an egregious amount of glue used, so I can clean this up without there being too much difficulty. But you can see it leave this darkened area where the foam and the glue was attached for so long. And I'm just going to try to clean this up best possible. Just run your finger along here. Make sure to clean up any remaining debris. And the reason why I'm grabbing the cone here while I do this, is so I'm not putting undue pressure on any axis of the cone, which could distort the former. Then I'm going to come up here with the X-Acto knife and cut away very carefully any remnants of glue sticking up I see. And if it's too sticky, like some of this stuff is sticky here, I'll literally grab the edge of the sticky glue and just pull it away like this. Hard to see that on camera, but basically any and old remnants you want gone. One of this is going to be one of those ASMR videos. Lots of weird sounds. Okay. I'm just running my finger along the edge and noticing if there's anything that's sticking up, which would be glue that I missed. Okie dokie. Let me dump out the debris in the cone, and then we'll see about attaching a new surround. Alright, so I've got the surrounds for these here, which I got from Simply Speakers. I didn't really have a big enough order to make a wholesale, but Simply Speakers is nice in the sense that they give you everything you need, including shims, which I don't personally use because I figured out a way to do it without it. But if you are going to use shims, which if you're a newbie, I recommend just using the shims, you're going to have to cut the dust cap away very carefully and either replace it with one they give you or cut about 90% of it away, fold it up, insert your shims, etc. So the first thing I do is I do a test fit, and I'm going to slide the surround underneath here, and I'm going to make sure that it fits without any kind of pulling or stressing. And it does, fits beautifully, just like I would hope. No rubbing or nothing funny. So that's the correct surround. And you want to get the correct surround. Yes, a generic 10-inch will fit this, but the compliance of the surround will not be correct. The speaker will not perform exactly to spec. So yeah, make sure you get the right thing. Now, as far as getting this attached, you can put a bead of glue here around the edge, and you could work it under just like I did for the test fit. If you want to get really fancy, you can use a regulated supply at about 3 to 5 volts to push the cone up to make it a little bit easier for you. But right now, we're just going to do it the old school way, which is going to be with just applying glue and resting it in there and then pressing it from the bottom. Alright. Yes, I did clear the nozzle this time, so we didn't have an explosion. And I'm actually using Springfield Speaker Repair's professional black speaker adhesive, which is a hexane-based adhesive. It gets tacky very quickly, and it sets very quickly. So I'm just walking it around here, putting a bead in. And now I'm going to fit it underneath the cone like I was doing during the test fit. And it's already starting to get tacky, so I need to work a little bit quicker. And we're just going to tuck all this underneath here. Make sure the surround is properly centered. Make sure there's no side that's pulling on one or another. Give it a good press to seat it. And then I'll press it from up underneath. Let me show you. So the contact point of the surround on the cone, I'll be pressing up on the cone and walking it around. And what that's going to do is that's going to seat the glue. You can see it kind of ooze out of the crack there between the surround and the cone there. So it's properly seated. And I'm just going to walk it around. Again, take your time. And I'm going to continue to do this until I feel that it's seated and it's not peeling up, and I chuck it in a little bit and see if it's wanting to peel up or not. But I'm pressing against my finger from the other side to help seat it. This also gives you an opportunity to clean up any excess. Like we got a little bit here. I'm just going to clean that up with a Q-tip, and then we're going to keep walking around. And you do not want to get this black goo on your clothes. It'll never come out. If you get it on you, wipe it off very quickly because it is hell to get off. And don't bother trying to wear gloves because it will instantly bond to nitrile and latex gloves. So you can glue your fingers together real quick. You can make it a big mess. So it's best to have your digits about and your dexterity about you. Like I said, we're just going to keep walking this around until I feel like it's seated. Another way to look is that when you push, do you see the glue gush out anymore? If you do, it's not seated yet. If you don't, it is. So we got a little bit here that's still oozing out, but the rest of this is looking a lot better. It's almost set up. Hadn't been that long, a couple minutes. It's very tacky, it's almost set up. This little bit here, there's probably got an excess amount of glue on it. That's why it's taking a while. But we're just gonna let that sit up. And then once that's done, we'll just lift up the lip around the edge here and we'll adhere this down. Now, right now it's not centered. So we're gonna have to move and center the cone. And I'm using kinesthetic feedback, meaning I feel the limits of the cone where it's hitting back and forth, and I'm just memorizing where those limits are and trying to center it right in the middle. And we'll do that while the glue's getting tacky so we have an opportunity to fix whatever off-axis errors there are. Because if you've got an azimuth error, it's going to show up at either extreme or worse. So you want to make sure it's properly set up right. And this is where the power supply comes into handy, because you literally have something to just hold it up like this while you put the glue down. Let's check this perimeter one more time and then we'll go on to the edge. Yeah, the glue is not oozing out anymore, so it's seated. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is taking my glue bottle again. I'm going to wipe off the nozzle. And then I'm just going to lift up like this, right around the edge. And I'm going to lay a small bead around the perimeter of this. Not much, just enough. And if you rotate it like this, you can see the bead being laid down as you go around the surround like this, which is handy. Sometimes it kicks itself out. Alright, so now we've made full circle. We're going to center this thing. And I'm going to push down while it's centered and begin tapping on this to seat the glue. And when it starts to get tacky and stick, that's when you want to make your corrections, if any. And what I do is lightly tap. See, you hear the rattle? So you want to go opposite of the rattle. Press down again. Reseat it while it's tacky. Looks like we're doing good. Still on center. Push down a little bit harder. Recheck it again. Alright, so move it a little bit this way. Tab it down. And like I said, lightly tap. Alright, we're good. So let's press it down real hard to seat it fully. And I'm just pushing down until I meet here. And I keep rechecking it until I know that it's dry and it's on center. Now, not every speaker is going to be perfect. You may run into some that were put together a little sloppily. This is one of those because this is definitely off center. But we got no rub, which is really good. And this stuff's about set up. Doesn't take long. All right. And then I'll just very gently move the cone in and out. Make sure there's no rub. There's not. It's nice and clean. Passes the tap test. Press it down one more time. Then what I'll do is I'll get a really sharp blade. This is different from my other ones, different color, so I know it's a sharp one. And I'll cut out the screw holes here. All right. Now that we got that part finished, what you might want to do is take your beauty ring pieces that we released and clean off any nasty glue. Now these will be old and brittle, so be careful about removing the glue because you might end up tearing it. You can get new one of these, I think, but they don't look the same as the old ones, so it just depends on what your personal preference is. Hell, you don't even have to have the rings on there. It just makes it look nicer. So I'm going to very lightly scrape away and just get any loose bits off of here. I'm not too concerned about the glue there. It's just going to be there. Clean the other one off. Obviously, really big chunks that are sticking up, you'll want to slice off with an X-Acto so that it seats flat on the basket. But otherwise, it's not terribly important. Here's the one with a tear I just happened to find. So if we put it back together, you really can't tell other than the slight crack there that it exists. So unless you're looking for it, it won't show up very easily, but you can see the big chunk of glue there that was causing it to bind. That's what made me tear it. And the rest of this is just clearing stuff off. I'm making sure to hold the spot where I tore it so it doesn't make it worse. And then what we'll do, Since it's most likely going to bond to the surround, since the surround sticks up far more than this, we're going to put a very light bead on the edge of the surround here. Very light, just enough to make the stuff stick. Now the torn one, I'm going to put a little tiny bit of glue on the bottom here, so that when I press it down it'll ooze into the crack and hold it there. And then we're just going to push the beauty ring down here. Trying to center it in the gap here. And the next one. And the next one. Still nice and happy, nothing shifted. And then this one. And we'll just keep rotating and pushing this down until it's all seated and glued into place. And once this is all set up and dry, this sucker's done. So that didn't turn out too bad. It's too bad that they tried to glue it from the front side because it's left that nasty stain there on the cone, but gluing it to the front is the lazy way of doing it. You're supposed to glue it from the back on the 127. Moving this in and out, there's still no rub on either axis, so that's good. And I'll continue to press this down because there are some spots that are a little bit peeling up. And that should be good. Go around and check on the back side just to make sure none of this is peeled up. Just give it a quick brush with your finger, make sure it doesn't come up. That tells you that it glued down right. Any spots that come up, trickle a little glue down in there and press them down nice and tight. This appears to be alright. So there's one down. We're going to get this one back in the cabinet and see what we have to do to make it right. Now there's a couple of ways that you can approach this problem, and it's really unfortunate that somebody cross-threaded that. So one thing you can do, if you really want to get sophisticated and maintain the original position, the customer wasn't terribly concerned about keeping the position of the driver original. You can get a small piece of 1/4-inch plywood, cut it to go underneath here, and then run 2 flathead screws down from the top to anchor it, and then drill and add a new piece of retention hardware there to make that work. But really what we're going to be doing here is rotating this 45 degrees, and then we're just going to use all new wood screws to hold it into the cabinet and go from there. And hopefully the other one isn't damaged either. I haven't taken the woofer out of the other one, but I'm not going to have enough room on the camera to do both woofers. So the video was basically to show you how to refoam the thing and pull the dent out. And so I'm going to do the other woofer, and then we'll sweep test them to make sure that they're happy. But for right now, it's just a matter of getting this one back in. When we pull the basket out, you can definitely see that somebody actually tried to glue. That red stuff there is glue. Somebody tried to glue the fixture in. So rather than stopping when there was something that was obviously wrong, they tried to glue it in and then ramp it down. So yeah, not great. And I may add some sealant here, like some rope caulk or something, just to fill the hole so I know the woofer's going to seat properly. The other 3 bits of hardware are still in there, and I wish I had better facilities to repair this, but that's going to cost more time and money than he wants to pay for it, so we're just going to rotate it and use wood screws to secure it. Also, now's a good time to clean the level rheostat. So I turn the thing upside down, and inside here you can see the back of the level pot, and all you want to do is just spray some contact cleaner in there and rotate it a bunch, and then you can clean it up real good. So just as an example, I'm going to grab some contact and control cleaner here. Spray it in the hole, and then from the front panel, I'm just going to work this back and forth a bunch, and that will clean up any touching controls that may have oxidized over the years. Okay, so we got our holes drilled. We got our speaker hooked back up and ready to drop in. So I'm going to put this in, and then we'll screw it down, and then we'll do a sweep test, and we'll see how everything turned out. Alright, now I can tighten the first one. Yeah, we'll put the other 2 in. And then finally the last one. Alright. She's in. I think I'm going to clean up all the previous chooch marks here from the guy who last took it out. Color it in, that way at least it doesn't look too bad. It makes me wonder how rough this guy was with this thing. This is obviously the area of struggle when the screw froze. And you know, I'll give some people credit. Sometimes the MDF just crumbles apart and the thing just starts spinning in there. But this one was obviously cross-threaded, so not good. Definitely would have not cross-threaded it and ran it down. Some people get impatient, they grab the power tool to run it down. Not a good thing. So let's hook it up and sweep test it. Okay, so I got a 100 watt amp hooked up, and we're going to sweep it from 10 to 100 first. And actually I think we'll do half power. We'll do 50 watts. And so yeah, headphone warning, blah blah blah. So we're going to start here. Full excursion, baby. Yeah. Good. And we'll drop it 10 dB. And then we'll do 100 to 1,000. 1,000 to 10,000. And we'll do 10,000 to 20,000. And that's 15,000. That's about where my hearing drops off. All right. So she's happy. I get it back into full frame here if I can. But yeah, that one's done. So I'm going to refoam the other one, and then we'll sweep test that one too. All right, so here's the second one. This one came out real easy. There wasn't any damaged hardware. I even managed to get all the old glue stuff, or almost all the old glue stuff off the edge of the cone. It went in together nice. None of the threads were stripped out. Let me turn off the fan here. Yeah, it makes a nice line transient. Alright, so let's sweep this one real quick. Full excursion there. Let's do 100 to 1,000. Let's do 1,000 to 10,000. And let's do 10,000 to 20,000. And there's that 15 where I can't hear it no more. So we're good. All right, so that gets both of these up and running again. That first one was a pain, but this one was much more straightforward. So I hope you can find this video useful to you in refoaming your L-40s or anything that uses a 127A driver. So thanks for watching. More stuff to come.